Fantastic. Now alive.
Yeah, how
Hey,
you doing?
I'm not bad, mate. How you doing? You all right?
Yeah, I figured out had to go out to YouTube to get to the chat.
Yeah, that's a bit confusing. These are things that I should mention, but because of the whole amateur hour situation, I forget to do that sort of thing. Like, please get here 10 minutes early. So you have to say to me, should I get that 10 minutes early? I'm like, yeah, okay, it's probably a good idea, actually. It's all good fun now. And also, Jeff's now approving of the intro music, so all the things are starting to fall into place. We're getting there slowly but surely. Anyway, thanks very much for joining me, and thank you for recognizing the fact that we have the whole daylight saving time thing going on. Uh, so you thought it was going to be an hour earlier, but it was
Yeah, I
not.
thought it was gonna be an hour earlier. I'm like trying to join. I'm like, it's not. Then I was like, oh. Then I went to the countdown. It's like, oh, it's still an hour away. Oh,
To be honest, that's one of the reasons like when I like post tweets and stuff, I always make sure I tag the person. I was like, because it's like just in case there's some kind of confusion, I'll try to like just really get it all set. But yeah, these things happen. I was meant to do a talk, it was like mid last year, and I still feel terrible about the fact that I completely got the time mixed up and I was late by about 24 hours due to the whole midnight on the 23rd. And I was like, okay, so it's midnight. And then I was, oh no, I've made a terrible mistake. So yeah, what are you gonna do? Anyway, no one wants to hear that sort of thing, mate. Do you want to say a little bit about yourself and who you are, what do you do, and we'll get later to why Microsoft hates you, I suppose.
yeah, sure. So Greg Deckler, vice president at a regional consulting firm in the States called Fusion Alliance. I live in Columbus, Ohio, and I'm a Microsoft MVP for data platform, super user on the Power BI community site. I've written a couple books now on Power BI, and the latest one was Learn Power BI second edition. And then I wrote the first edition a few years ago, and they wanted it updated because you know how much stuff everything changes in Power BI desktop constantly.
Yeah.
And then I've been writing some external tools for Power BI. So that's kind
Okay.
of me in a nutshell.
Not bad. That's an impressive nutshell, I got to say. We'll get the tools, no doubt. You're based in Indiana, right? Is it correct?
The headquarters for the company's in Indiana. Yep.
Okay, fair enough. So I saw that, and then I always notice when I see Indiana because of that's where the greatest basketball movie of all time is located. Hoosiers.
Talk about Hoosiers.
I love Hoosiers. It's such a cool film.
Yeah,
I
it is.
I met a few guys from Indianapolis. Say a few years ago. It's not a few years ago. It was like back in 2004. When I'm getting old, so it feels like a few years ago. And yeah, we spoke about Hoosiers and drank beer and we kept talking about Hoosiers. It's a very cool film. Anyway, so no, but that's not where you're based. That's where the company's based. Yeah.
Yeah, I get to
So
Indiana. I get to Indianapolis every once in a while, though I haven't been there recently because of all the COVID stuff going on. So
you've had a decent reason to not travel, right? That's
yeah,
fair.
I've
Yeah.
been at home for like 2 years working.
Yeah. Yeah. I basically haven't moved from this chair, to be honest. It's just it's how I exist now. In my chair with the window boarded over because I hate sunlight so much. So I'm just kind of like, I literally have done that, by the way. There's like, instead of having a blind, I was like, it's gonna be so much easier just to like put a panel of wood over this window, and that's what I did. I'm like a vampire. It's really pathetic.
Oh, it's less expensive too, man. The prices they charge for drapes and curtains, man, holy
Tell me
smokes!
about it.
Well, until the wood prices shot through the roof. Yeah, wood's cheap.
And the holes were already. I didn't have to drill in the window frame. They were already there. It's fantastic. It was like great. Didn't have to get in trouble from my wife. Don't drill the window. Someone else already did that. I'm not breaking anything. It's fantastic. Anyway, see how we digress talking about window frames and wood. Microsoft hates Greg. So I'm sure you've answered this question so many times, but it's the first time I'm speaking to you. So what's a bit of background, if that's okay? What did you do to them, mate?
Well, I mean, it was a joke, right? In terms of maybe a running joke that's been carried a little too far. But in fact, I'm going to be on with the Power BI community show next week on
Oh,
Monday.
cool.
And so I had to change I changed my GitHub repository to Microsoft Hearts Greg's Quick Measures instead of Microsoft Hates Greg's Quick Measures, so they can share the link.
Nicely done. Nice one.
I might change it back afterwards. We'll have to see. But yeah, it was. I got into a discussion on the forums, and I won't go into that whole mess. But again, basically, somebody was like, "Well, you don't like what I'm saying because you write all those quick measures in the Power BI desktop." And I'm like, "Well, actually, I've written like 200 quick measures in the quick measures gallery, but Microsoft's never included one of my quick measures in Power BI desktop." Because some other ones have, like there's a couple ones, like there's a regression one out there from the Nell, and then there's one from Chris Webb on like star ratings and things like that.
Yeah.
And so like after I posted that, I'm like, this light bulb went off in my head, and I was like, that would make a funny blog article. Like I could write that in a way that would just be hysterical. At least I have a weird sense of humor, so okay. But
you're in good company.
So I wrote this blog article, I mean, like instantly in my head, right? And so the blog article is Microsoft Hates Greg's Quick Measures. It's out on LinkedIn and a couple other places. And it's, it's just, it's a complete farce, but it kind of takes perspective like, well, Microsoft hates me, so I'm just going to go out and write my own tool to do quick measures and blah, and it talks about lemon tree genocide, and it has like global terminal carnage, and it's got all, and I had this thing all written in my head. But then I realized, I'm like, oh crap, to pull this off, I actually have to write the tool, right? I actually have to write something and create something I can't get away with, because I did my 150th quick measure out in the gallery. It was a joke, right? I did this long blog article about how I used machine learning to like parse all the answers within the forums, and then all you have to do is go out there and type any random question, and it'll come back with the answer from the forums and everything. And really all it was a magic 8-ball. And it just, had the little, magic 8-ball answers, right? So, it's a complete joke.
Love it.
So, yeah. So anyway, I had this thing all written in my head. And I thought it was a great, funny blog article, but then I had to write it. So I sat down over a weekend and taught myself how to write C# WPF application. And, basically
just over the weekend, right? Like you do.
Well, thank God for Uncross metadata translator. So, it's out there as open source, MIT license. And so I'm like, I'm just going to hack this thing up, which is exactly what I did. So, but learned a lot. There's not a lot of original code left, but I learned a lot from Uncross code, man, and how to do things properly and stuff. So, and then of course I did everything, the way I do things, which is just hacked it in and made it work. So.
Hacking in to make it work. That sounds like a good work day. Yeah, that's about right. Why didn't they include any of your quick measures though? That I don't understand. What was?
Well, I mean, I don't. There's only been like maybe 3 or 4 that have ever made it from the quick measure gallery into the tool, and I'm not sure if quick measures in Power BI desktop. I'm not sure what the telemetry is on that, but it doesn't seem to get a lot of love in general from Microsoft, right? I mean, it only has it started out with maybe 26 quick measures, and now it's got like 30. And that's since, it's 6 years or so of development. It just doesn't, I don't know if it's not used enough, if they have telemetry on it that says people don't use it, or I don't know.
I admit I used to recommend people not use it. Simply because I think, okay, so trying to explain myself here. I really like using Power Query and M. But for me, the applied steps in Power Query, they are very good at kind of helping you learn from yourself, right? You can do something and then you can see the code behind that step. It's not perfect. There are some things you can actually do better yourself sometimes, or also worse yourself if you try and do it. But you get my point. You can kind of learn from your from your own work. But I found, maybe it's not the case anymore, that when I was using quick measures, sometimes they were written and they included a lot of the stuff that you just didn't need. So it's like, and for that reason, I was saying people who were just starting with Power BI, don't use them because it might confuse you and take you away from the facts of what is actually in a measure. That might be terrible advice. I've probably given worse advice than that before, to be honest. But I always kind of shy away. But then recently I've kind of had a look at them and I thought maybe I've just become less grumpy and cynical, and they're actually not so bad, or maybe they have improved. I actually don't know. But there aren't a great deal. And it was always my impression that they were going to kind of really expand this out, and it was going to be this awesome place where you could just go and click on stuff, and you'd have pretty much, save a few things, of course, what you needed. So fair point. I kind of, that was my really long-winded way of agreeing with what you were saying.
No, and I don't disagree with you. I never really used quick measures too much when, in Power BI desktop. There were just too many limited scenarios, and things just didn't quite fit, and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
It's like, well, it doesn't quite fit exactly what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
And maybe that's why they've never really expanded upon them too much or whatever. But
Perhaps.
I don't know.
It's difficult to create templates for sure. I mean, you know about it. You've done your oh, what? Oh man, you haven't even mentioned it. What's the acronym again?
Oh, Mushkukum.
Mushtukum.
Yeah, MSHGQM.
MS. So Microsoft hates Greg quick measures. Say it again. I'm so bad at this. Ridiculous.
Yeah, Mushkukum. MSH. So MS Microsoft hates Greg's quick measures. So yep. MSHGQM. I think it was actually one of the Power BI developers that actually, because in the blog article it was like, I tried to make this thing so it can't be acronized, which I just invented the word acronized, right? and one of the Power BI developers is like, that's Mushkukum. I'm like, you've thwarted my attempt, to not have this thing acronized.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of acronizing. Is that the word that we're using? I'm a big fan of acronizing things that usually aren't, I guess, such as PBIX would be a classic example. We had in my previous job, we had this. We use SAP, and there was so many different codes that you would use for different statuses from different things, and I would just start saying it because I just assumed that everyone would say the same thing. Like, would have a company that, for example, you couldn't use it anymore. It was a B01D. It was called B01D. So like, can you just come and say, no, it's Boyd? Like, what the hell is Boyd? I'm like, it's B01D. It's Boyd. B01D. It looks like Boyd, right? Like, that's not going to take off. And I was like, I don't care. I'm still saying it. See, you can say the long-winded version. I'm saying Boyd. I don't care what you think.
I should have known somebody from Microsoft would be able to acronize it, because those guys have a bajillion different acronyms for, trying to understand them once in a while when they get rolling about their internal jargon is just insane. It's like, wait, what was that you just said?
It's like the first month of learning is just acronyms. It's when you're speaking to someone and they, or like, actually worse when you get an email and the email has like 3 or 4 different acronyms in it and you have no idea what any, and you can't Google them if they're company acronyms. How are you going to know that? So you got to respond like an idiot. Can you please just use the actual words? I have no idea what I'm saying. B01D, not G, close enough though. My B01D Boyd. I hope that wasn't some kind of really, really sensitive information I've given out about my former employer. I don't think it was. But if it was, what they're going to do? Find me. I don't work there anymore. Exactly. Is this so? 1 second. But is this something that you can kind of push to get generally released into Power BI? That would be cool.
I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, I'm actually. Kelly Kay is trying to put me in touch with one of the developers, because I got an issue with Metadata Mechanic, which is another tool, and it's basically designed to mass set. So Mushkukum is designed to like put quick measures on steroids, right? You can create measures with it, create columns with it. You can see the code before you actually, hit create in the model. You can set metadata, as you're creating the measures. And it's got about 200. It's got over 200 quick measures, including all the default ones that are included with Power BI Desktop, plus a bunch of the ones that I've created over the years and other ones from the quick measures gallery in that. So that's Mushkukum. Then Metadata Mechanic is so you can mass set and automatically set all your metadata for all your different fields. So if you want to turn like all your whole number columns into and create have them have 1,000 separator, right? It's designed to do that just in mass throughout your entire data model. But if you use it and set too much metadata, it tends to crash Power BI Desktop.
Yeah.
So it's like a Power BI Desktop sitting there, it just spins like it can't. It's like, there's too much has changed.
Yeah,
so I'm trying to work with them. So maybe I'll talk to them about like, hey, maybe we can work together to get an improved quick measures experience within Power BI Desktop natively.
That'd be like beneficial for everyone, really. I mean, you say yourself. I mean, I'm sure Microsoft do want to do something with quick measures, otherwise it wouldn't exist, right? No one likes to have a feature that's sitting there. They kind of know they should work on it. They don't have the people to assign to it. They've got this stuff going on. That being said, you know what it is? This is something kind of related, but I'm just going to go off on a small tangent anyway. I always like try to be like respectful about the stuff that happens in Power BI, because I know it's people's jobs and they work really hard on that kind of stuff. However, if one of the features that you include on an update is you can now put pie charts in maps, like I kind of reserve to right. They're going like, what else could you have done instead of putting a pie chart? Can I swear in a fucking map? Because like seriously, the only people who are going to use that are people who are going to hate and should have their license revoked. Okay, so you could have put a bar chart in. People would be happy with that. Why would you put your devote time? There's so many things. And I saw a pie chart and I was like, okay, just don't tweet. Don't be a dick about it. Just like, so there we can do. It's just insane. Anyway, I forgot.
No, I understand you because like Chelsea Iden, when she created the custom format strings, right? That was a problem for like 4 years. And I had gone to the MVP summits and I had talked to all of the Power BI developers and explained to them why this was a problem. And it usually was a problem because you couldn't display like HH:MM:SS in a bar chart as the y-axis, right? Because you'd have to use format and then that changes the text. And I mean, so it was like, I was like, why did this problem take 4 years to solve? But thankfully Chelsea Iden came in as an intern and fixed it.
Wow, crazy. But this thing, and that's, I can understand that if you people are assigning you kind of constantly prioritizing other stuff, I can get that. It's really, I mean, everyone's been in the situation where you're in the corner of your eye for so long. Okay, when I get that, it's going to be awesome. I'm going to fix it. It's going to be fantastic. So I do get it, but there was something about that update that just unleashed my inner grumpy. It's not that hard to unleash it, to be honest. I'm not going to lie to you. It's just like it's waiting for someone to set it off. Yeah, exactly. Like, look, we're waiting for Jeff to go nuclear when he saw that in the release, but Jeff's sitting there defending it. You know what I mean? Jeff is sitting there defending. I'm not sure if he's joking or not, but he is defending it, and that's down on record now. Take a screenshot in case this video ever gets deleted, right? Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, getting back to the point, if this is something that they can include in Power BI, it saves a huge job for them. Your tool gets included, which is rad for you. They can make improvements upon it for the crashing and stuff. That being said, anything that crashes Power BI is a terrifying thing. I
agree. So that's why I'm trying to understand. Is it something in my code that I'm doing wrong, or is it something about they need to maybe fix something in Power BI desktop? It's not the first time I found a bug in Power BI desktop or even in the DAX engine. So there was actually, I wrote this one of the Excel formulas I wrote. I was trying to replicate Roman, and basically present Roman numerals. And Marco Russo reached out to me. He's like, "Hey, don't release this yet. It crashes the Power BI query engine and could be used as a denial of service attack." I'm like, okay, like, that's fine, Marco. I won't do that.
That's fair. That's understandable. My God.
Yeah. So they fixed a bug within the DAX query engine and the calculation engine, and then I put it out there. So
wow, that's cool. So you helped find a bug.
I found
good work, man. Yeah. I always said, like, when people, if you'd like doing trainings and stuff or just introducing people to Power BI for the first time, my thing with Power BI, and I never compared to Excel because they're incomparable, but it's like Excel for me crashes frequently, and then you just sort out Excel, whatever you kind of do you Control Alt Escape, sort that out. Excel crashes frequently, but when Power BI crashes, it takes everything with it. It's like, for me, it's just, that's like a hard crash. It's like, okay, let's just switch the entire thing off and start again because this is gonna get messy. So yeah, it's one thing. It really hasn't happened very often, but when it does, it's just like, oh shit, this is a terrible situation. Especially when the fact that when you restart and it says, okay, there's been an instance where it wasn't saved or whatever you want to, it kind of does that thing. It has to reload the entire data set, and it takes, like, if it normally takes like a minute and a half, it'll take a year and a half instead. I'm not sure what that is all about, but it's intense, man. It really is. I hate that so much.
I am glad that they added that auto recovery feature, because back in the day when it would crash, it just if you didn't save, it's like, oh, they're just went like 2 hours worth of work.
Yeah. And Power BI made me lazy when it comes to saving, because with Excel, I'm like, I've moved my cursor, save it all the time. Every time I touch anything, I looked at a different part of the screen, save it. This is me with Excel, but with Power BI, I'm like, yeah, this never crashes. This is rad. And then you're like, no, that was wrong, and now you're an idiot, and now you're an idiot with 3 hours of work to do again. And
well, God forbid if like this, like my son, he's 16, he'll be 16 here in June. God forbid if autosave didn't exist for that generation. Like, could you imagine putting out a program these days where autosave is not a thing?
Yeah,
they would never. They would lose everything.
Yeah,
it's always existed for them for everything.
I remember I went to university with a guy, and it was like the day before, and he had an essay due. We studied history and politics, right? He had a day before his essay was due. Somehow he managed to delete the entire thing, and then he panicked. So instead of undoing, he saved it. And then it somehow couldn't. I mean, that's what he said to me. Now I'm actually saying out loud, it sounds like he just lied and actually didn't do the essay. But that was his story anyway.
It happens, man. When I graduated, I actually was a mechanical engineer. That's what I went to school for in college. And the day before the engineering and training test, so you have to, you become a professional engineer. You take the EIT test, and then you take a professional engineering test. The day before, the calculator I used for like 4 years broke. And so the only backup I had was literally a calculator that had add, subtract, multiply and divide. Right. I mean, that was it. And so I go into the test, with that calculator, and there's some easy questions on there, like, what's the log of this number or whatever. It's like, well, if I had a calculator that actually had a log function, this would be a no-brainer.
Yeah.
But I actually passed. Not that I ever used my engineering degree ever, but I went into IT instead.
Yeah, I was gonna. I thought that story was gonna be. So I just I built a calculator which had a log function or something, but I got that question wrong. Oh my god. One second. Nothing causes panic Power BI where it saves your file. Yeah, I hate that as well. Is that just Power BI? Is it everything? I find I do that with most things. I have to save it. I can't find it, and then okay, so I'll just save it again, and this time I'll actually see where the location is, and okay, now I know where it is. It's all the time. I do Camtasia did this, but I'm not sure. Do you use Camtasia or videos? Every time I make a video with Camtasia, save it, and then I don't know where it is anymore. It just creates some kind of path. I think it's part of the mystery is to find where it saved the bloody thing. You studied engineering, but you're not an engineer. You're a Power BI data type expert.
Yeah. Instead, there's a good reason for that, because
I'm curious.
Yeah, so when I graduated college, I'm interviewing with all these engineering jobs, and I'd spent 4 years working on the computer networks and splicing fiber and doing all kinds of crazy stuff on the computer network. So I had a good background of that. I had a comp sci minor, but I'm interviewing with all these mechanical engineering places, like the Honda is the good example of this one. I'm interviewing with Honda, and they're like, yeah, so there's these things called cars exist, right? I'm like, yeah, all right, I get to design a car. I'm like, well, these cars, they have these things called doors, and I'm like, okay, I get to design a door for a car. That's okay. Well, these car doors, they have handles on them. I'm like, okay, designing door handles for cars. And they're like, these door handles, they have this screw that attaches the door handle to, the door. And that's what you'll be doing for the next 4 or 5 years. You're going to be designing those screws, that go into that door handle that attaches to the door that attaches to the car. I'm like, nope, not for me. It's like, so I also interviewed with computer, networking firms and things like that. I went to work for a small professional services firm, and 2 years later, I'm designing global email systems for Owens Corning and Yellow Freight and Disney and stuff like that. So it's better.
Yeah, sounds. But on the other hand, now the entire car industry has missed out on potentially one of the most groundbreaking screws that has ever existed.
I'm sure.
Somewhere in the multiverse, right, there's a universe where cars look different because of this screw invented by Greg Deckler. What are you going to do? Oh,
yeah, either that or a bunch of door handles fall off, after a year, because I put the wrong one in. I don't know.
Because you were so bored, this sucks so hard. I'm not going to do
Honda is out of business because of it's just massive recall on every door.
Oh man, love it. Yeah, that's a fair point. Oh, excuse me. So instead of that, we got potentially amazing quick measures. Once, but can we get this? Can an average person just go and get your quick measures and just start using it?
Yeah. So I developed there's I already covered quick measure, mushcookum, and then metadata
Hmm.
mechanic. I also have power sort, which basically automatically finds sort by columns. So basically you can run it across your entire model, and it does some pattern matching and that sort of stuff, and tries to figure out sort by columns. But plus, it allows you to manually set or unset them, and then you click a button and boom, all your sort by columns are set. Because like if you have like these wide date tables, you might have like 20 or even 30 different columns that need sort by columns set on
Yeah.
them. So then it's a pain if you have to do that every
Yeah.
time you create a new data model. So
Damn.
anyway, so yeah, they're
That's
all
pretty
out
powerful.
in GitHub. They're not open source. They're free, not open source. I won't get into my views on open source unless you
Oh no,
want to.
please do. This is what you can't say that and like, yeah, I have strong opinions, but I'm not gonna share them.
No, but I mean they're out there in GitHub. You can go out to GitHub Deckler, and then right now it's renamed Microsoft Hearts Greg's Quick Measures,
Okay.
because I'm going on the Power BI community show next week, and they Microsoft it's a big no to having the word hate anywhere near Microsoft. So
Fair enough.
right
So,
now it's rebranded at the moment. So, but
well, I want you can have Microsoft Hearts Greg Deckler or Greg, and then but I want another website that Greg hates open source. I just want to. This is
that's
I
called
want,
my LinkedIn page. I have
yeah.
so many articles, on my just how much I don't like open source. And of course when I write things, like calculate, and about how much I hate calculate, or how much,
I wanted to bring that
well, the
up. Yeah.
time intelligence being the fifth horseman of the apocalypse, that one's true, but time intelligence functions, but
All right.
that's absolutely accurate. But
Let,
most of my blog articles are, they're written from a perspective to be funny, and and provide a different take, kind of a contrarian take on things.
Wait, there's a lot to unpack there. I don't want to like move through this like step by step, and I got all these comments. I'm not like I can't multitask, and I've got like calculate. I definitely want to mention. I think Jeff mentioned that as well. Time and intelligence. I didn't know about. I didn't know about this thing about time and intelligence. So one second. Let's start at the start or start in the middle, whatever. Calculate. I read a bit about this, and I thought it was fantastic because, well, yeah, fair enough. What's that about? Please unpack calculate.
I mean, the basic concept behind calculate is like, and like when I first started DAX, I think everybody kind of gloms on to calculate, and overuses calculate. Like I've literally
Yeah.
seen, where people will write a DAX measure, which calculate some column end, right? And it's like, well, what in the world is
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
use of the calculate there? There's no
Yeah.
reason for it.
Hmm.
So everybody kind of, I think, starts there and overuses it, but I never really was able to solve hard problems in DAX until I got rid of using calculate and just
Okay.
said, okay, I'm not going to use calculate. I'm going to think in tables and use iterator functions,
Yeah.
and these kind of summarize columns, add columns, max XX, and all of that sort of stuff. And then I could really start to solve really hard problems in DAX. And until I kind of broke myself out of like thinking calculate is the silver bullet for everything,
Mm.
I really couldn't do that. Plus, calculate is a really complicated,
Mm.
intricate function. There's a lot of nuance to that function where if you and it was one of the things that always frustrated me about it when I was first learning DAX was like, I swear I'm doing this the exact same way, as this
Mm.
other measure over here, but it works
Mm.
completely differently. And it's like, oh yeah, it's because of this weird thing that calculate does and how it goes about, and and how it actually works and everything. So it's just drove me nuts.
Mm.
So yeah, not that I don't use calculate, not that calculate is not a core necessary function within and has its uses or whatever, but sometimes you just need to break yourself out of certain patterns,
Yeah.
think differently.
I've heard that before somewhere. I don't remember. Um, yeah, but it's a fair point. I actually, when I first started with DAX, I would do as you mentioned. I would start with calculate, no matter what I was writing, to calculate sum, and that was the end. And my logic was, this makes no sense if I think about it. It's like if I need to add anything in the future, I can just do it because the calculate's already there. The fact that I could just also have added the calculate didn't really occur to me. I was like, I'm being so prepared right now. This is such dynamic forward thinking. Like, no, Benny's being an idiot is what you're being.
Just over-engineered it. That's all.
Yeah, exactly. So it's a completely redundant thing, just sitting there waiting for someone to use it. But yeah, it's a fact. When you explain it, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so that's
Yeah,
calculate the DAX, the time intelligence functions. I
that's
think those
interesting.
functions have caused more misery for people, just because they are set up, and I think calculate is also this way. Calculate, it assumes like a star schema, like every data model that's out there has a perfect star schema, and so and it would always, this is always the right way of doing it, and this always works. And I have yet to see a production Power BI data set, I swear that is a perfect star schema. I mean, I don't think they exist. I think they're just fictional theory things that exist in AdventureWorks databases. I
Can I just say I'm so pleased you said that, because every time I'm building, it's like, what is wrong with me? Why can't I have a report that it's like my data set never has this perfect star schema? So I'm really happy that, because it's more complex than that. Like,
most real world data is.
yeah, okay,
Yeah,
that makes
but
sense. But
that time intelligence functions, they make so many assumptions. The first being a Gregorian year, right? Well, how common is a fiscal year within So if you start with a fiscal year, the DAX time intelligence functions are useless, right off the bat. And how useless are they for how many companies that are out there? And then they make certain assumptions about how they work. There's a ton of nuances. They're super complicated. So yeah, I forget to bleep with time intelligence, I think was the name of the blog article. and it basically says that they're the fifth horseman of the apocalypse, and it actually goes on to provide DAX calculations for that do what the time intelligence functions do. But I've always found it better, because I had wrote an article a long time ago about DAX, about time intelligence the hard way, and it basically did it manually within DAX and said, because I think it was like year to date or something, it would I forget what it was, but it's like just do it manually. It's just filters. That's all these functions really are, just filter functions.
Yeah, I created a report recently, and I had this issue where the year didn't start with the year. It started like sometime in September. And I was doing this, like, would it not be possible just for some kind of place where I can just select where my year starts and everything changes based on that? If I say, okay, at this report, this is where my year starts, just like select it, write it, type it, enter it somewhere, and then everything changes based on that. That has to be doable. Again, coming from the person who knows very little about how to do any of that I just said. But I'm like, I'll say it has to be doable. It would be so helpful just to say, okay, this report, the report sends on that date is where the year starts. That'd be so cool. It would save
Yeah,
so
I
much
mean,
time.
I've got a DAX calculations. It's a 445 calendar in DAX, and it allows you to kind of do what you're saying. It says, pick what week your fiscal year starts on, and what day of the year the day of the week it starts on, and then just generates the 445 calendar for you, and just everything's all of your fiscal months and all your weeks and all that stuff's correct, right? But there's also, I've seen a bunch of Power Query ones. Enterprise DNA has a great Power Query. I forget who it was written by, but it's fantastic Power Query that generates a date table, and it's awesome.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I know you can do it with the calendars. Maybe I'm just thinking of the laziest possible way I can think of, where it's just literally just clicking. Like if I had a calendar, like if thinking like a visual, if I had a calendar, just click on that date. That's where it all starts. So yeah, it's possible for sure. But yeah, time intelligence is tricky. I always just think of it in terms of very standard. I mean, for me, when it comes to the time intelligence or anything date related that upsets me the most, it's like ISO year. Like, I hate it. Like, just get over it. It's just less days, or there's more days here, there's less days there. Oh, your sales are going to be out by 3 days. Get over it. It's 3 days. You're going to be all right. You're not going to go bankrupt for 3 days. Drives me crazy. It's like, you have to be that precise. You can't have it. No, it doesn't exist.
I still don't know if it's actually documented in the DAX document that weeknum supports like ISO dates. I think it's 21. It actually is just like the Excel function. I forget there's actually a parameter you can tell it, and it gives you the ISO week numbers.
Yeah, this is a good point, right?
Oh,
Anyway,
that's funny, man, because that was actually so we wrote a program when I was in college, and yeah, they gave us the calculation for Easter, because we were writing a calendar program, and it was like the calculation for Easter is insane.
It's ridiculous. Easter's the stupidest holiday. I'm sorry, I get it. It's nice, but it's like pick a date. All right,
Oh no.
it's like it's the moon or something. It's like the only holiday surely that I know of where anyone cares about the moon. So basically, if you can if you know when the moon's going to happen to the moon or whatever, then you can do the calculation. That you get some kind of astrological chart or whatever, and then you're good to go.
I might have to tackle Easter, the Easter DAX function.
That would be a cool one.
That would be a challenge.
You could do that some kind of this, one of these weekly DAX or Power BI challenges. Just make it like ridiculously tough. Show me Easter for the next 10 years.
Okay.
I suppose actually, I mean, yeah, okay, no, that would be it's cheating. If you connect to a data source, what actually has I had this connecting to a data source that has all the calendar, the holidays, the vacation days, whatever you want to call them, for that year. That's the easiest way of doing it. But to actually do it without a cheat, yeah, I of course have no idea. I leave it to the experts.
I have to create an is Easter DAX function. I created an is leap year, I think, DAX function. So which is more complicated than it's not every 4 years, right? There's then there's like the hundreds and the 400s and all that sort of stuff you have to account for. It's actually more complicated than people think it is.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's like if it's divisible by 4, but not if it's divisible by 100. If it's divisible by 100, it's not a leap year. I forget all the rules, but yeah, it's actually more complicated.
Again, this for me falls into that whole ISO week thing. We should just make every year include the 0.25. So like that's when the next year starts, and just like really get confused. Imagine how difficult time intelligence would be then.
Well, I also created the Dalai Lama calendar, the Dalai Lama Kung Fu calendar. That was Bikram Shambat. So that's a whole other Tibetan calendar. I created that. That one's out there in the Quick Measure gallery too.
That's pretty cool. I was as I was doing my usual Connect Live pre guest stalk, I was looking through all your stuff, and not all of it. That'd be like too much. That'd be a bit weird. Some of your stuff, and I found a dinosaur report.
Oh yeah,
that's really cool. I'm just gonna show my kids that. They'd love that.
Oh yeah, that was a fun report. I think there was a contest that when the community site used to do contests.
Yeah.
That was a contest submission I put in for it was like an educational one. So yeah, I found I don't know how it took me like 4 years to create a dinosaur Power BI report, because when I was a kid, I always wanted to be a paleontologist, right? And probably when I retire, I'm going to move out west and go, dig up dinosaur bones or something. I don't know, but I always wanted to do it. So, so I'm like, man, how did this take me 4 years to think of this? Yeah. So yeah, I found like an online dinosaur database and sucked in a bunch of information from it, and then yeah, that was a fun report to do.
It's good fun. I read once that you don't know as much about dinosaurs as when you're 8 years old or when you have an 8-year-old. These are the two. It's true. The kids when they go through the dinosaur. I remember when I was that age. I remember like sitting down with a friend, and instead of like going out on like the playground and stuff, we'd like literally just get books in the library and like read all these facts about dinosaurs, and we'd like write a dinosaur. Make myself sound like such a nerd, but I am a nerd, so it's okay. And like write down like a dinosaur report, which is essentially taking the facts from the books and actually just write them in our own books. So that was kind of like photocopying, but slower. Hey man, how you going, mate? So yeah, it's a cool report. I created a report for my kids. It was just like a solar system one with all like the planets and stuff and all the pictures. And I used it. I forget what I used, like a plot. So the size of the planet, I had the size of the planet, and the plot was based on all the different sizes of planets. That was pretty fun to make. That was pretty good fun.
I like the science-based ones, science-based Power BI reports. Those are good. Those are fun things to create.
That's a really. I'm pleased you mentioned that, because again, I saw something I've never seen before. Ray tracing with DAX. What? It's mad. I've never seen anyone even go anywhere near that. I was like, all right, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, I've been doing some fractal work, some work with fractals, and using DAX and using Power Query, and that, and basically representing like the Mandelbrot fractal and other basically a bunch of different kind of fractals and everything. And there was some great jokes in there about mathematicians, because mathematicians and engineers butt heads. So yeah, so then I got done with that, and I was like, I had written this ray tracing program as like a senior project when I was in college or whatever. So I'm like, hey, I wonder if I could do the same thing, because it's really just you're just calculating intersections between objects, right? So you have a circle and you shoot rays, from a camera, and you see, and it's just math, and whether or not that ray intersects that object, right? So yeah, I wrote it in the real basic one text just to see if I could do it.
I love the way in that article you also mentioned, by the way, that it's probably the sort of thing that you'd never actually have to do with DAX. It's one of the things that you probably never actually have to do, but it's fun to do anyway. And I do maintain that those sort of projects are the best projects, that you don't have to do them. And so I just posted the link there to your ray tracing article. You don't have to do them. Like, it's never the sort of thing. It's the top 10 things you need to know with DAX. Ray tracing. It's like, no. But it's great to do that sort of thing. You can learn a lot. I mean, I'm not sure if you learned anything when you did that, but you can learn a lot. And it just kind of like, it's just another reason to like open a PVix and kind of like mess around and say, okay, I can do this. I can have another little fun project to do.
Yeah, I probably do too many of those, but but I like to do. I mean, and everybody, I get some flack from at different times about, because I write so much DAX, and they're like, well, you shouldn't be doing that in DAX. You should be doing that in Power Query, this and that. And I actually have a blog article about that topic. But it's like, yeah, but it's fun to see if I can do it in DAX.
Yeah, I get that.
Well, you shouldn't be writing a 4-4-5 calendar in DAX, but what the heck?
I am one of the people who would say that, to be honest. Be like, you bring the whole thing, but you can make that easier with M and Power Query, which is true. But I only say it because my DAX just isn't good enough. So I'm like, I could do this. Like, you know what? Let's not do that and make a fool of myself. Actually, let's just do it and create a flag in Power Query, and then I have my DAX based on the flag, something like that. I say it all the time. I should stop doing that and improve my DAX, but I can't see it happening anytime soon.
We can all improve on things. I should improve my Power Query. So
there you go. Wow. Together we're the perfect team, or something like that anyway. I've been making my way through so much stuff in the past. I was out of Deneb type stuff for like a week and a half, and just focusing on actually doing the job that I'm paid to do, which I think is reasonable. And I came back into it, and I was starting to get to the point where the documentation wasn't really including what I needed to have anymore. Like, instead of, I think I was telling you before, if you look at the documentation for a lot of Vega Lite, it's like, if you're using this on your x-axis, like your date, for example, this is how you do it. But it's always just like the year is the x-axis. So like, it's not that often you create a report and all you want to see is just the year, no deeper analysis. I was going through, I was like, how the hell? I've got like 15 pages open, stealing a little bit of code from there, stealing a little bit of code from there. So yeah, it's a project, but I learned something, and yeah, I can put it on my CV at some point in case anyone cares about that sort of thing.
Yeah, that's on my list of things to take a closer look at, is that Deneb stuff, because it looks super cool.
It's good fun. It's good fun. Actually, maybe someone asked me what's the difference between Deneb and Charticulator, and I really didn't think I could give them like a full answer, because I haven't used Charticulator very much. I just found it more like menu based, and so for me, Deneb was more, a bit more bespoke, if you will. So it's great you had to have the option, but I can't answer questions like that, because then I have to learn about Charticulator, and if I'm learning Charticulator, I haven't got time to learn about Deneb, and I haven't got that many hours, to be honest. I need at some point to sleep or just kind of watch some Netflix or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah, no, Charticulator, I used to mess around with it when it was brand new, and it was like, this is going to take me a month to figure out how to learn how to use this thing. It's way easier to just go out and grab a custom visual from the App Store.
Yeah.
And just use that.
Pay for it. Exactly. Just go get some Zebra BI or something. Like, yeah, that'll do. No problem. A license. Get like 15 Zebra licenses instead. Save some time. Yeah, I don't know. I'd usually at some point, I'd say some kind of question along the lines of what's missing from Power BI that you would really like to have included. But I feel that's like actually being 95% of the conversation this time when you talk about your I'm so sorry, mate. I'm got a terrible memory. I can't remember names, never mind acronyms like that. You know what I mean? So yeah.
So somebody mentioned that it's like sounds Yiddish.
True. Yes, actually. I think I was actually in the chat when someone mentioned that. I was like, I had to go find this one. Charticulator makes DAX look easy. I'm pleased I'm not the only one who feels. It's one of those things I kind of opened it and I played around with it, and I was like, I'm not feeling this, so I closed it again. And I thought maybe I just didn't put in the effort. Maybe I was like, I wrote it off too quickly. I didn't give enough time. So when someone says that sort of thing, if Charticulator makes DAX look easy, then Charticulator is just not for me. So there you go.
Yeah. And what's the other one that was really cool, but really had a learning curve was Sandance. I don't know if you ever messed around with the Sandance.
Never tried this one, no.
Yeah, that's a custom visual. It's really super cool. And I actually was able to get it to work in, for certain situations, but it's almost like, I don't know how to describe it, but it gives you it's like a 3D bar chart, of, I don't know. It's really cool, but Sandance is super nifty, but there's a definite learning curve to that visual.
Yeah. And I suppose it depends on what you want to achieve, right? I mean, for me, if you can create an entire report out of something, which for me, I think with Den, it'd be pretty much, you don't have to, but you pretty much can. So, okay, then I can put the effort in, and then I can maybe create some stuff that, if you have an idea in your head of what you want to create, right? I mean, this is what people say all the time when I stand by. If you know what your end goal is, it's much easier to learn something than just kind of like clicking and thinking, oh, if I do that, maybe that'll happen. And because you create a number of reports and they're saying things like, but can't you create this sort of visual? Why can't you create that? I was like, you just can't, okay? It's not in the Microsoft box, so I can't create. There's always your little hacks and your bugs, your hacks and your workarounds that you can play and make Power BI videos for. But still, if you have something where you just know, okay, all these requests that I've had in the past year and a half, and I realized the other day, a matrix that's actually responsive, so you just drag and make it bigger, the columns all change the size that you want them. It's a beautiful thing. I would use Denv just for that, to be honest, just to have a matrix that behaves like a normal matrix. It's ridiculous. I mean, seriously. But, I haven't got matrices that do that, but, pie charts in a map.
No, I think Microsoft's, but I think that's one of the best things Microsoft's done with Power BI is just made it such an open platform, creating custom connectors, create custom visuals, create custom external tools. I mean, I just think, all of that just is phenomenal. They've just, they've kind of, it's like a force multiplier, right? Now they don't have just their development team working on it. Yeah. They've got, all these other developers out there, like creating these super cool stuff for them.
Yeah. So. Yeah. No, it's a very awesome thing. Yes, I'm actually working on that. It always takes me like 2 weeks to make a video because I'm slow. But yeah, that'll appear soon. Don't worry. But yes, you're quite right. That is the huge benefit. It takes a long time to get approved to get into this, which is a good thing, to get your visual there in the store, gallery, whatever you want to call it. But yes, it saves them a lot of time and effort and our annoying requests. Can you please create this? Or they release something awesome, but this very small thing that I wanted isn't there, and it's not like when they created this the page navigation, which I still refuse to use because you can't say don't show drill through pages, and for that it just renders it completely useless. So I mean, in my use case, because everyone assumes that their use cases are the same as everyone else's cases. So I'm like, it's completely useless. It's like, well, it's not. It's just you can't use it for some of the reports that you create. Calm down, Ben.
Yeah, I actually did include the navigator stuff in. I'm working on the next book, is Mastering Power BI 2nd edition. So that one I'm chugging through because it's a beast. But I actually included some stuff about the navigator, and then I'm thinking like, I've never used this.
Yeah, it's awesome. I've used that on a couple of reports. It's awesome, other than the fact that I had to hide 3 buttons behind a visualization because they're as drill through pages. And it means every time I add a page to the report, which doesn't happen so often, but sometimes I have to adjust the thing because, of course, a new button appears. So then the buttons that I'm hiding behind the visualization, it's like, this is not the way to be working. Like if you're hiding stuff behind visualizations, then it's just not.
What if you created a bookmark for each page and then use the navigator bookmark, so that way you have control over what appears?
Right. I'm not gonna. Could you do that? Yeah. But right, this is a good point. However, then that's like Microsoft going backwards, because it used to be you had to create a bookmark for each page. And like, I have to do it anymore because now we have page navigation. It's like, we have a page navigator, but it doesn't work. So now I got to create a bookmark for each page. Are you happy? I'm like, no.
Oh yeah, it's the slicer navigator. Yeah.
What? The slicer navigator?
The slicer, is he? Yeah.
I don't know what that is. Maybe Jeff, expand. I feel foolish. The one way you have to press go. It's some kind of joke that I don't understand. It's fine. I'm not sure.
Is that a custom is that a custom visual?
Someone was it Jeff who says it would be great if you could have a drop down, so it kind of behaves like a slicer. So you like a drop down slicer, but when you click on it, it navigates to the next page. That would actually be very cool because that would save a lot of space. I mean, I'm not sure like the user would have to get. Yeah, okay, it's not a joke. I understand what you mean now, Jeff. Sorry, I think I do anyway. The users might be confused because they wouldn't see the list of pages, but it's not actually that difficult to get used to. A dynamic navigator. I don't know. I'll have to look about that. I don't know what I mean.
Yeah, I think it's called apps, right? I mean, if you're following the according to Hoyle, the way you should be distributing Power BI, reports, you should be using apps, and then you can control what's in the navigation, what's not.
Yeah. Oh my God, we're on a whole different subject now. My God. Look, they built something like that, but it sucked. If it sucked, then I'm not going to learn about it again. It's a waste of my time. It sucked. I'll just take your word for it. It's a dynamic navigator. They built it and it sucked, so I'm not going to use it. So I don't need another navigation pane that sucks. So yeah, there you go. Oh man, this was fun. We're 5 minutes over. Sorry, Matt. I always say 45 minutes, but it always goes to longer. I should lie less when I send out the invites.
Hey, no worries. I think this is my last video call for the day.
Fair enough. So I had just these notes. You have something when I talk about acronyms and stuff. You also have a camel pug, which I thought was quite amusing, by the way. You CAMLPUG. So all the old power user groups is pug, but you managed to combine a camel and a pug, and you have a camel pug. Do you still run the camel pug?
Yes, but I have not had a meeting this year yet. So that's probably the first one's going to be in April. And it's just been too many things going on between my, the things I actually get paid for to do, my job. And then, with all of the books and that I write on the weekends, and then, the coding is on the weekends and all of that. So it's just too many things going on. I just haven't had time to like, okay, yeah, I got to get my user group together and we got to get going. Cause again, it was all messed up. We met every month for like 3 or 4 years, and then COVID happened and it just, we kind of fell out. Once you fall out of the rhythm, it's just like, all right, got to get back into it.
Yeah. There's so many sentences and conversations that kind of include then COVID happened these days, right? I think we all understand what happened there. All good. Anyway, mate, I'll let you get away and relax and have a well-earned whatever coffee, tea, beer, whatever you have at the end of your day. It's been awesome talking to you. Really enjoyed it.
Great fun, Ben. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. People in the chat asking questions, especially people who agreed with what I said. That's always fun. Thank you very much. Back next week at Thursday with another Greg. That was confusing to me when I sent out the invites. Almost got that wrong. All my emails, which always go to people's spam because Microsoft is trying to tell me something. I appreciate you helping me get around that hurdle. All my emails go to spam. If I ever promise to send you an email, anyone, you don't get it, it's in your junk or spam. So sorry for that. Anyway, absolute pleasure. It was very good fun. Learned a lot. Looking forward to trying to remember how to say Magush Kukum or whatever. But more importantly, they're actually using the tool, and I hope it gets there in Power BI as an official product. That'd be very cool because we need more stuff like that. Anyone else, thank you very much. It's been fun. I shall see you all next week, and take care.